Hello everyone, and welcome to Season 2 of Releasing the Unreleased. Unreleased games are so interesting to me because of just how much you end up learning about video game development and the people within it. Last season we did a bunch of cancelled Sonic games, but this time, to coincide with the most recent retrospective on the channel, we will be looking at a bunch of cancelled Crash Bandicoot games. Today's game will definitely be an interesting one. It is certainly a very strange idea for a Crash game, and the reason for cancellation is also pretty funny. Today, we'll be talking about Crash Bandicoot Evolution. This game was going to be huge. The story of the game would have shown the evil twins, a pair of evil twin parrots, taking Insanity Island and putting it on their own Frankenstein planet made up of other chunks of planets. Now, hearing the evil twins may have rung some alarms for some avid Crash Bandicoot fans. Yes, this was the prototype story to what would become Crash Twinsanity. It would have even played like Crash Twinsanity as well, but have been even bigger. Crash would have free reign to explore all of these worlds, not only to defeat the bosses within and collect gems, but Crash could also find side quests to complete to make friends with the inhabitants of each planet. This is the closest we've ever gotten to a Crash Bandicoot action RPG. Some other set pieces and story elements that were originally from this game would have even been carried over to Crash Twinsanity. Like I said before, the evil twins would have been the villains of this game, but they also carried over the fact that the evil twins were a young Dr. Cortex's first animal experiment. Not only that, we also would have seen the Academy of Evil here as well. There are so many cool environments that we would have been able to explore. I mean, look at this concept art. It's so beautiful, it's so inspired. This would have been absolutely insane for a Crash game. The developers of the game seemed very excited to be making it as well. Lead designer Richard M. Albin of Vivendi Universal was very enthusiastic about sharing a bunch of concept art and information about the game to Crash Mania. With a Crash game that had such ambition and would have taken Crash to a place that would have been even bigger than Crash has ever seen before, and with developers that were super enthusiastic, why the hell did they absolutely decimate all of our dreams? Just destroy it. Someone's family relied on the release of that game. And now that it's not here, little Bradley's gonna eat nothing but damp bread for dinner. Poor Bradley. Wishing he could know the sweet taste of candy like a normal child. And maybe, just maybe, if Crash Bandicoot Evolution comes out, he can know, begging, praying, that he can even smell the luxury of a tuna sandwich that he sees the other kids at school eat, and maybe they won't make fun of him for being the poor kid who eats soggy bread anymore. Even the teachers laugh behind his back, calling him Where am I? After the release of Wrath of Cortex, Universal was on the mission to create the next big Crash game. They hired Traveler's Tales once again to develop the game under the supervision of Vivendi Universal, a French mass media distributor that has released all types of media such as movies, books, and video games. Richard M. Albin was put on as lead designer and got to work. After coming up with all of these cool concepts and story beats for the most ambitious Crash game yet, they hit the biggest snag that they could have possibly hit, and they could not recover. The whole story of Crash's Island becoming a part of a hodgepodge Frankenstein planet by the game's main villain, it was already being done. Let me introduce you to a game called Ratchet & Clank. Ratchet & Clank is an action-adventure platformer and third-person shooter game released in 2002 for the PlayStation 2 by Insomniac Games. In Ratchet & Clank, the villain, Chairman Drek, wants to create an entirely new home planet by taking chunks of other planets and Frankensteining them together. Richard M. Albin even noted that the design that they had for the Frankenstein planet in Crash Bandicoot Evolution looked eerily similar to that of the one from Ratchet & Clank. This caused them to scrap the idea and go back to square one to create what would soon become Crash Twinsanity. So why was Crash Bandicoot Evolution cancelled? They accidentally made Crash & Clank. This would have been the biggest Crash game to date at this point, and I don't think this would have gone unrewarded. Having such a big scope for a Crash game that would be more in line with games of the age would have been quite the risk that I don't think Crash games have taken to this day. The only downside to this game's existence would be that we would lose Crash Twinsanity. As much as I think this game would be really cool to play, I wouldn't want to live in a world without Crash Twinsanity. One thing I do wonder if they did come out with this game is if it would tarnish Crash's reputation, becoming known as nothing but a Ratchet & Clank clone. I personally don't think so, since Jak and Daxter was faced with the same criticism when they employed similar gameplay elements into Jak 2. By the time Jak 3 came out though, it was seen as its own unique game, and I have no doubts that Crash Bandicoot would have been able to do the same, especially if they stuck with their usual tongue-in-cheek Looney Tunes-esque tone. These are literally the worst kinds of cancelled game stories, because I would have played the hell out of this game. I hate when the cool games get cancelled. That concludes today's episode of Releasing the Unreleased. What did you guys think of Crash Bandicoot Evolution? Do you think it would have been a cool evolution of the franchise? Put your thoughts in the comments below, and let me know what series you want me to cover next on Releasing the Unreleased. We also have merch in the description below, so if you want to enrich your gameplay experience, I'd take a look. I'd like to give a special shout out to Andrew's Retro Games for being the most well-esteemed guest of them all. If you want a special shout out in every video, as well as getting these videos as soon as I'm done editing them, as opposed to when they're scheduled to come out, make sure you become a channel member because it is 100% the best way for you to support the channel. And with that, I'm Bottles, and I bid you, my well-esteemed guests, adieu.